Hello friends, hi, what's up? It's me, Tanis, of Tanis Fiber Arts. I'm a knitwear designer, a hand dyer, a lover of color, and an overall fiber enthusiast. And this is my YouTube channel where I talk about knitting, color. I talk a lot about Tanis Fiber Arts these days. What's coming up, what we're working on. Like, I'm having an existential crisis currently about the sort of structure of the business and what we do and everything. So I talk about that a lot. But I'm going to try not to dwell on it too much today. And instead, I'm going to jump right into telling you what I'm wearing. I am wearing my Flipside tee. The Flipside tee is it has an eyelet. I'm going to have to stand for this. So it is a t-shirt. I always tuck. It's a t-shirt with a single eyelet detail that flows down the side. And I absolutely love it. And I knit mine in stripes. The original sample, which is this, is knit in stripes. And I've also knit a version in a solid, which is also obviously beautiful, just a solid color. And we make tea kits. I make a striped tea kit, which can be used obviously to knit this or any tea pattern that you want. So for example, I'm going to show you. Here's another example. This is my floodlight tea pattern that I originally knit in a linen silk mohair stripe combo throughout the yoke, and then the whole bottom was just the linen silk. So the original sample was just a solid color, and then I knit a striped version because anything can be knit in stripes, and stripes makes everything better. So I knit the striped version. I also have my rocket tee pattern, which again, the original sample, it's a v-neck t-shirt, again with an eyelet detail, and the original sample was knit with a merino and mohair in the same color striped down through the pattern. But it can absolutely, there's been so many gorgeous versions knit only in merino if they want to omit the mohair, and knit in stripes, knit in rainbow stripes, knit in, I mean, this is already striped, but you know what I mean, multicolored stripes. And so basically when I launched this pattern, and since my original was knit in stripes, I figured out with my tech editor, I wanted to make a kit that would include enough yardage to knit any of these tee patterns in stripes of this style, you know, with equal width stripes top to bottom across any of the sizes available. And they're all size inclusive, so that's a lot of sizes. One kit, you can knit yourself a t-shirt. And I have them available in a couple of colorways. Yeah, I have a new one that it's not, okay, this one has just been added to the site. I have a pastel kit that I'm adding that is available today. That was not available yesterday. But I have offered a pastel kit in the past. Last spring I had a pastel kit as well, but it wasn't these exact shades. It was other shades, equally beautiful pastel. This is what I had in stock today because I wind these off by hand. They're a yardage that is not available in a mini. It's our pure wash fingering, which is a non-super wash, 100% organic merino yarn that I can't get in minis anyways. So I wind them all I say by hand. I have a machine, but you know, I stand there and I wind them and I count them off and I tie them up and I make these beautiful kits. And I'm sort of really, really pumped about these kits right now. And I'll tell you why. It's because, you put them aside so the crinkling doesn't become really annoying. I'm going to tell you why. As you know, I've been trying to figure out the best way to organize the shop, the best way to sort of move forward into the future with Tanis Fiber Arts, because the industry has changed so much since I started Tanis Fiber Arts in 2007, like 16 years ago. And there's been ups and downs. Our business has grown over the years, of course. Of course, hopefully that's good news. But things became difficult. How it's hard to phrase. Okay, there was a time, I'm going to sort of generalize and say 2020 was an insane time in the world, and it was an insane time for small businesses and for crafty industries, and we were doing so many kits, one of a kind colorways, fun stuff, but that we couldn't keep in stock because there was just so much demand. And I know it wasn't specific or exclusive to us. That's just sort of like, that was what was going on at the time. And I know there's a lot of sort of theories about why, people were staying home. They had money to spend on home things, not going out things. So knitting, people were buying yarn. It's true. I did personally experience this a ton, where I was getting emails from people who were just getting back into yarn and knitting after not having knit for years. At any rate, long story short, just to say that I had in my head since then that we needed to have, if we're going to launch something, so if I'm going to make a striped tea kit, I needed to have a lot. I needed to not sell out like immediately, because people were so mad. You would launch something, you would have as many as you could, they would sell out, and then you would get so many angry emails. And I know it was the climate at the time as well, and that, I'm sure, led, that added to it. But it was just a really tough time to sort of figure out how much we could do, because we would do as much as we could, but we're still only 2 people. Long story short, it got me into this sort of mind space where we had to have so much inventory in order to list it. Previous to that, we're only 2 people. We are a micro business. And if I would make a kit like that, for example, the stripe kit, there's 10 colors. So for every time I do 1 round of kits, I'm making 30 small skeins, and I've got 3 kits out of it. I take 10 full skeins, I divide each skein into 3. That's the yardage. That's the way that the calculations worked out. So it takes me, the better part of an hour. I've made 3 kits, and you can imagine how limiting that is in terms of how much I can make, right? So I could not have 50 kits available in every colorway. And 50, I don't know, I'm picking kind of a random number, but that feels like at the time, like that's what we needed. Times have changed. I no longer people are not shopping the same way with us. I've been hearing it from everybody that, I don't think it's specific that people just don't like us anymore. I think it's the time, it's the economy, it's the climate, it's everything. And my point is, I can make kits like this again, because I felt for several years so limited. I couldn't make kits like that because I did not have the manpower to. I wasn't able to personally wind. If I wanted to have 3 colorways available, okay, let's even take it down from 50 to say I needed 20 of each, which was super reasonable. That would be a number that I could sell for sure at the time. I can't do the math on how many that is. So 20 of each, let's even go 18 kits, because that's 3 times 6, 6 full skeins. I had 60 skeins to break down per colorway. It was more than I could do. Whereas now that I feel like things are not flying off the shelves the day they launch the way that they used to, which is alarming to me, right? When you get used to something like that, that's a great problem to have, as everybody is aware. But since they're not, I don't have to make infinity kits anymore. So today somebody requested a pastel kit, can the pastel kits come back? And I looked at my inventory at what I had. I grabbed a beautiful pastel palette. I made the kits. I made 3 kits, and I said, sure. And I'll make more, because I feel as though, 6, 9, I can make those numbers of kits. I just can't make 30 kits in one day. Anyway, I hope that this is making sense. I'm trying not to go too much. I'm throwing out numbers like multiples of 3. I started with 50 kits, and then 20 kits, and then 18 because it was a multiple of 3. And now I just said 3, 6, 9. I try not to do that so much because sometimes it can be really misleading. The amount of, when people talk about numbers of orders or numbers of skeins, everybody has a different process. and everybody has sort of different production capabilities, and so saying numbers is not always that like specifically helpful. At any rate, my point is that I can make kits like that again, and I'm so happy about it because it's something that I love so much, to look at my available yarn and create a palette from it. And so to feel the freedom and the, I guess freedom is the word, like to feel like it's plausible again is something that I'm working to consider as, no, I wanted to say that I consider it nothing but a positive. I'm really happy about it, except for there is that caveat that, like, of course it was nice when I could list 100 kits and they would sell out. Of course, I'm aware of that. But that kind of leads me to another sort of discussion that I think is really interesting, and is something that I've talked about a ton before. But yes, I've been doing this for 16 years, and yes, we are still just a micro business, just Chris and I. I don't need to sell 100 kits, right? Because I don't have a huge overhead. I don't have a huge staff. My goal is not infinite growth. My goal is not the maximum number of sales humanly possible, because I can't live up to it and it makes my life really stressful. And so it just makes me so grateful and so thankful that our business is the size that it is, and that sort of taking a step back, being able to not just be a production dyer or a production kit maker, and instead to be able to focus and have time to really explore the things that really light me up. Like, I don't want to say winding mini skeins lights me up, but putting together kits in this way is so, it's so inspiring to me. And it's really, I felt this week when I've sort of been putting these things together, like mulling over them in my mind, has really, really helped to spark inspiration in me, and joy, sparked joy. Yeah, that's what it is. I feel like I'm seeing so many businesses, not just in knitting, a lot in the influencer space, actually, sort of like interior design influencers that I follow. Something, I guess it must be a post, 2020 world where things are changing, people are changing, or have changed over the years for sure. And a lot of sort of, and technology has changed so much, and bloggers have really, people who I used to follow as full-time bloggers, they're all making these announcements sort of this year about massive changes that they've made to their sort of platform, to their business, about maybe they're doing like a subscriber only, like a paid newsletter, or maybe they're not doing as much sponsored content anymore. And the point of it is I'm just seeing a change like that in myself and in my own business, and sort of an awareness and a realization of the stuff that I love to do and that I love about this small, tiny business that I run, and being able to focus on that again. I was talking with a girlfriend recently when I was saying to her that I haven't been knitting as much, and I'm like, it's tough because the business really relies on me knitting and being inspired and being creative and making stuff, and sharing what I'm making. And she was giving me sort of all these ideas about what could I do to sort of try and find room to create, and sort of part of it, one of my things that I said to her was that I own so many knits because I've been knitting for so many years, and like, I don't need another hat, right? And so this lack of need for a hat makes me feel like, should I knit a hat? Like, I don't know, I don't need one, I don't care. Not that I don't care, but you know what I mean? It's easier to be like, I need a black hat. That's what's missing from my wardrobe. I'm going to knit a black hat. And then there you go. You feel productive. You're doing something. Whereas when you've got 50 hats in your collection, the motivation is not the same. And so she has sort of suggested I go through my old knits, and maybe I can donate some, give some away, like create space for more, because maybe I'm just feeling bogged down by all the stuff that I have. And so I did that. I'm going through, and I do have, a pile of ones that I wear regularly and ones that I wear less regularly, and maybe these ones are available for gifts, or maybe I'll donate them or whatever. But what it also did is it just made me like going through them all, how much I love this one for this reason, how much I love that one for that reason, and makes me want to sort of, it definitely sparked like an interest in, just reminded me, going through all the stuff that I've made, it reminded me of why I love making stuff so much. And it actually made me just kind of think about some of the ones that I made. I made some things. Sometimes I make things because I do feel like I need them, because it's sort of like a gap in my wardrobe. Other times I make things because it's a design concept that I want to explore, whether it's, you know, filling a need is irrelevant. It's just like creative exercise. It's something that I want. For example, the hat that I showed you this before, but this hat that I knit, I don't need another cabled hat, right? And if I'm being completely honest, like, does the world need another cabled hat pattern? No. But this specific cable is one that I just loved the look of it so much. I really wanted to play with it. I really wanted to knit a hat with it, and it scratched an itch for me, and it I managed to remove this need, the need element. I wanted to work with this color. I wanted to knit that cable, and that was enough. You know, whether I was in need of a hat or not was irrelevant. And then that similarly, it reminded me, as I was going through my stuff, of this hat that I knit for my son last year. This is called Boneyard Sweethearts. Boneyard Sweethearts, I'm almost positive, by Stephanie Lotvin is the designer. And it is just the cutest. My son loves Halloween. I famously hate Halloween and all things spooky, but he loves it. And when I saw this, I just thought, you know, it's Halloweeny, but it's also cute. Like, look at those little ghosts, like, ooh, and it's nothing gross about it. Like, I like it. And so I knit this for him, and it was so fun. Just a quick little, super satisfying project. And believe it or not, I have like a bat motif, colorwork motif in my, or colorwork, 2 colors in my mind. And I'm like, should I knit a bat hat? The last thing I need in my life, and like, so not my interest, not in my lane. But I feel like my son would love it, and I'm trying to just focus on doing things that, you know, that are fun, that spark joy, and that are just doing it to do it, because I really tend to get bogged down in like use value of items, and in my line of work, that's just really not helpful. So I'm not promising a bat hat, because it's really not on brand for me. But, and I mean, why do I need a bat hat when I have this adorable skeleton hat? It's so cute. It's fingering weight yarn, and it does not use much yarn. So you should consider it if you have a skeleton lover in the house. And I'll show you what I'm working on. So basically, I do feel like my spark has returned. Last week, I think I showed you this as a swatch. And now this is kind of like the majority of the front of a sweater. This is I feel like it's really playing with the light. Woo! Because it's so bright. It's so saturated. This is our Brilliant Blue colorway. It's absolutely just shockingly beautiful. And I'm doing the same luscious cables that I worked on that hat up the whole front of the sweater. It's going to have a double folded over collar, just like a, collar. I'm holding one strand of DK with a strand of mohair for that gorgeous halo, and it's knitting up at like a worsted weight gauge. It's going to have a drop shoulder. These are all, and I think I'm going to leave the band. It's going to be knit in pieces and then seamed. And so this is another thing that I had to sort of work through and get over in order to proceed, like in order to get into knitting this pattern and to really feel, again, like reinvigorated. And that is that I know as a whole, people prefer top down, knit in one piece, no seams, no finishing. I am knitting this bottom up. Got drop shoulders, it's gonna have seams, you're gonna have to pick up the stitches around the collar. Like, it's difficult. It can be difficult for me as a designer to know like what the people want versus what I want to make. I want to make it this way. I think it's going to add more structure in both with the drop shoulder. The sleeves can be really heavy. The seam really adds, it's going to have a lot of cable. It has a lot of cables up the front. And so that adds like bulk to the fabric. The seams are just, they're structural. They're there for a reason. And I like knitting things in pieces. Not always. This is knit from the top down in one piece, like no finishing. Sometimes I absolutely think that that's the way to go, for sure. But I also just sometimes it's nice to just knit a front of a sweater and have it be done. I'm not scared of seams. I like sewing seams. There's not going to be so many. But I know there was this reel going around on Instagram recently that was like this person, like, it's just like the table and she has her yarn and needles and everything out for a project, and then whatever the caption is, like when you start reading the pattern that you're ready to cast on for, and it says knit bottom up, and she just like whoosh, like launches her yarn and needles off the table, like basically throws them in the garbage, like she's not going to do it. And I know that's what people want, but also this is what you need. It's like, anyway, I also feel like with this particular pattern, I don't think I am going to put the cable up the back. I'm not sure. I really like a sweater that's all plain and then like a detail up the front. And that's also super hard as a designer for knitwear patterns that, knitters obviously love knitterly details, and it's like if you've got the super lush cable on the front, you could also add it to the back. You could also add it up the sleeve. Like you can always make it like more interesting, more neat, more knitterly, more obviously handmade, and it can be hard to pare back those details, but also I have to like picture the finished garment that I actually want to wear, and I think it has a blank back. But I'm not 100% certain yet, so don't hold me to that. But it can be really hard to balance what I want versus what I think the people are going to want. This one is purely selfish. I hope that the pattern works out and that it's beautiful and that I publish it. So it's selfish with an end goal of potential profitability, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I'm just gonna knit it for me. And of course I feel like, I'm sure somebody is just like rushing to the comments to write this. Yeah, those are probably my most successful patterns, is the ones that I designed because it's what I really, really wanted, not what I thought somebody else was gonna want. And obviously that's like the best advice in the world. But also, I'm sure that if I put the same cable on a top down knit in one piece sweater, maybe it would be more successful. It's just not the sweater I want today. At any rate, I'm also, now as I'm knitting it, I love these Lush braids so much. How beautiful would they be up the side of a cardigan? So now I'm thinking of that. So it's like everything is so connected. Whenever I have periods of sort of lack of inspiration or lulls, something happens, like it comes back, and now I've got like a hat, a pullover, a cardigan, like maybe a bat hat. Like I've got, don't hold your breath on the bat hat, but I've got all these. It really was this color that really got me really pumped up about this too, because I wish I could remember this actress's name. There's this Irish actress. She was in the show Catastrophe, which was amazing, and then she's also in the show Bad Sisters. What was that on Apple TV? She's so good. Is her name Sharon? Her first name, I think, is Sharon. At any rate, she's got amazing personal style. And in both programs, like, I feel strongly that it's her personal style that sort of like leaks into the characters. And probably because she's Irish, she wears a lot of like beautiful Aran knit, like beautiful cabled sweaters, but in funky colors. Like they're not all beige and cream. She'll knit a sweater, like it'll be like this. It'll be in a bright, vivid color, and she'll wear them with like houndstooth pants. Like she's so cool. So cool. So at any rate, that's the dream I'm chasing with this, and I'm excited about it. I'm about to come up to I think I've knit just about to where, because I'm gonna have a nice collar on it, and I don't want it to be too high. I want it to be about here. So I might be about ready to start planning the neck, and arm shaping, so that's exciting. Then it's exciting for so many reasons. Stay tuned for that. The next thing on the docket for today, I have a new yarn I wanted to talk to you about. So I don't know if it's going to be in the shop tomorrow. It might not be in the shop until next week. But in the spring, I got a few samples of this yarn base. It seems like a no-brainer, and I think it is a no-brainer. I'd love to know what you think. So it is a superwash merino yak nylon sock yarn, and so Undyed, the yarn looks like this. It's this beautiful sort of warm gray colorway. And so when it takes the dye, it takes it in this really beautiful, heathered, like nuanced, deep, dynamic way. It's just beautiful. It's the same, very similar. I mean, it's not exactly the same because this is our Luxe Yak Silk DK. So it is a superwash merino yak silk DK weight yarn, but it's the same colorway, undyed. I don't have a skein of it undyed presently, but undyed, it's this beautiful color, and then it just takes the yarn so stunningly. Now this has the silk and this has nylon for socks, and this one's for drape and gorgeousness. But like, look at that, these colors. They just it takes the colorways so beautifully. And I knit a sweater for my daughter in this yarn this summer. So I bought a few sample skeins of it, dyed them up, was very pleased with the way it took the dye, and then knit with it because you got to test it. And I'm really happy with the little sweater that it resulted from it, that it produced, that I knit with it. And so now I have a larger quantity of it, and we're in the middle of dyeing a bunch. And I think I may have enough to list tomorrow, but if not, then look for it the following week. But I mean, look at that. So this is why, like, I don't know if you guys recall, I knit my terracotta sweater in the chartreuse colorway, which is this, of the Luxe Yak Silk DK, because with this brown base, with like the warm gray brown base, the colors are just impeccable, delicious, absolutely love. So I'm excited to knit socks with it next because I think it's going to be quite sturdy, actually. It feels so comparable to, we used to stock pretty regularly, well, very regularly, an MCN, a merino cashmere nylon sock yarn. And it's really beautiful. It's really, really cushy. It was really spongy, squishy, like it's fantastic. I worried always with it that it was quite pilly. It wasn't spun quite as tightly as this, and I did not find it especially durable for socks. I think I've only knit one pair of socks in it because I was discouraged by how quickly it pilled. And this will be, I believe, a sturdier, yet still equally luxurious sock yarn. And I mean, great for all your garments and everything as well. So I'm quite excited about this. Look at the color. I mean, I love it with this. This is not my typical palette. I like to have these sort of candy corn colors and these fall colors. As we know, we've been through this before. I'm a winter, although I've dyed my hair. I'm a bright winter. At any rate, I don't love my hair color currently. But that's neither here nor there. But with my hair dyed, I feel like I look warmer, but I'm not really that warm. But I mean, tell me, I can't stop obsessing over, I'm not actually obsessed over what season I am, although if Chris were here, he would disagree with that statement because it comes up a lot. Maybe I'm a spring. I don't know. No, I'm not. I wear black and I wear white really well. I cannot wear cream. It's just how I can wear bright, warm colors. I can't wear dull, warm colors though. That's the difference, right? Dull, like if you look good in like a desaturated peach, then you're probably like an autumn. I do not. These are really bright and vivid, even though they're warm colors, they still fall into like a bright winter palette. You guys are like, enough with the seasons, or just, I need to just go get my seasons professionally done. At any rate, that's it for this week, you guys. So again, I'm sort of a little, confused about what I'm supposed to be talking about every week. I really want to show up here every week. I really want to share what I'm working on, what I'm wearing, what's coming to the shop. Like, these are all obvious things, but I could probably, tick those 3 things off the list within like the first 5 minutes. So how do I feel as though I then go on a tangent and talk to you for 30 minutes about nonsense. And today I liked to focus on how sales are not what they once were in the heyday of hand-dyed yarn selling online. And so looking on the bright side, that leaves a lot of opportunity to be creative. And so I'm feeling it. I'm feeling really good. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you have any suggestions for like sort of topics, things you want me to talk about, please leave them in the comments or send me an email or message me on Instagram or whatever you want to do. I love sort of if you would give me a kind of jumping off point, because I can go on a tangent. I can branch off. I can keep it. I can chat for a while. I wanted to have Chris in this video because, but he was too busy. I do like having him in the videos because I think that it's easier for me to talk to another human than to myself. But he was too busy dyeing all this beautiful yak sock. So hopefully next week he'll be back. And I just can't wrap it up. I feel like there's more and more tangents for me to go on, but I'm going to leave it at that. And I will see you next week.